There are plenty of holy scriptures that mention the fall of Satan and his angels. If there is the truest daredevil, then it would be the devil himself, definitionally speaking. Four-winged cherubim that challenged the omniscience and omnipotence of God. God didn't have to do a thing. The archangel Michael did it all for him. Give him that glory. After the fall of Satan and his demons, they had quite a lot to think about. And what they have to think about brings the flaming skulls. Hence the frustration of the demons keep challenging God in the same way. Which is why they have to put their scopes on weaker individuals. Why he had to deceive Eve when she was at level 1, you could say, of knowledge and wisdom in the garden. The knowledge of evil is to know as much as you can first to secure a particular. St. Paul says many will give up their faith to secure their passions and go to the teachings of demons. After the fall, though, Satan now has a new domain. He basically turned his prison into his home. The demonic culture and the love of death. Favorite movie section is the horror movies of people's lives. Yet those people's lives that fall into those horror movies is all free will. In a demon versus God. So certainly the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was not that he convinced the world that he doesn't exist. Rather, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to lead the whole world astray from God. To get human beings to hate God. Continuously. Same way, irrationally, just like demons. Attach themselves to one particular to secure themselves from, hell. God most certainly explained in theory and then reality, if you try to take over the kingdom of heaven, then this will happen. Logically, it leads to an end. With God's wrath, it comes to that as well. A ram horn simply means to keep charging because that's what a ram does. Flaming head is the frustration of keep challenging God in the same way with different circumstances. Test the patience of God on his throne. Then when one is bound to the earth, there is so much more than just the earth. God, his angels, and the heavens. Some arrogantly presume that God has nothing to do with the universe. There is much to the universe that we do not know. It would be God's creation and the life in that. That is an irrelevant point, however. So the title of Satan goes to the devil himself, most certainly. It's quite the role to play for God. Adversary who was willing, most certainly. So when God says, on your belly you will go and eat dust for the rest of your days, he is simply talking about the descendants of Abraham and their discipline. And their love for God. So the disappointment for a being like Satan is that there are those who actually love God. I would say imagine that, but you really don't have to. Since today modern Satanism is to use the church itself against God. And those in it act like they have nothing to do with Satan himself. The extraordinary phenomena to observe constantly. Do leave the hooves open to interpretation. There is much credit with a being like that. Many paradoxes that are seemingly true but are not. To get people to forfeit their soul for very little indeed. The accuser gets an accumulated strength of many weaknesses. There can only be one greatest lowest of the low. Those who follow that very much have their place in hell. The expression goes, if that's how you feel. But knowing that there is a being that feels that way and gets that joy from that, it's quite good knowing that God exists and loves those who truly love him, who are truly willing to keep such commandments and render under God, which is God's.